Sweet. Awesome. GM. Everybody, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Spellborne stream. And as always, I'm your co-host, Basa. Really excited once again to be back here. I know it's been on these bi-weekly cadences with Ghosty here in these streams, but I check in with Ghosty himself. Ghosty, what's going on, brother? How are we doing today?
Good morning. It's going well. It's going well. We made some major announcements recently, as well as team has been pushing to bring certain features before TGE, so that players can kind of compete and trade and do all sorts of different things, as well as opening up the game to allow the community, to be able to contribute more to the game. So the team has been working heavily towards that, and yeah, super excited to discuss more about those things. How have you been?
Good, man. Amazing, honestly. And again, really excited to unpack more of what you just mentioned here. But before we get started, as always, shout out to everyone here that's now just pouring in. I see a couple people in the comments. So much love. Don't forget, guys, best way to support these streams, repost, like, comment, bookmark, share this in those group chats. Um, but look, Ghosty, man, you already gave us a quick sneak peek on what we're looking at here, and of course, what the team has been working behind the scenes. I would say, again, just to kind of kick this off today, what has been one of the more bigger updates since our last stream together? Ghosty, if you don't mind, go ahead.
So if we talk about the updates, I can quickly just go over the change log, because there have been quite a few updates. I think since our last conversation, so spring season is here. The game has seen a major revamp for the map. No more winter, no more snow in the map. So it's much prettier. And then there's new levels for Tower of Infinity. That's kind of the event for players to kind of challenge themselves, if the normal gameplay feels boring for them. So spring season introduces three new monster breeds as well, and Tower of Infinity gets new levels as well as support for hordes. Hordes is a feature that we had recently announced and added to the game. So hordes kind of adds more challenge to the event, as well as a lot of new items, to kind of change names to monster cosmetics, crop enhancers, minerals, and so on, as well as multiple battle system fixes, a few UI improvements here and there. But most of the changes that are coming are currently, in the background, and are currently just being tested out thoroughly, so that players do not face any, bugs and here and there once those features are fully live. So yeah, this has kind of been the smaller update for the game itself till now. I think, and I'm not sure when we had our last conversation, because since then we also had mining, farming, a lot of other fixes to the battle system, as well as our mobile builds are now release candidate usually means that they're ready for full release. So both of our mobile builds have seen multiple stability fixes, as well as a few other fixes that are not actually live in production. But yeah, a lot of things going on here and there, and these are all the things that have already been pushed out. But there are a lot more things that we'll be talking about that haven't been pushed out yet.
Ooh, man, really cool to hear the updates around the mobile side of things. Do we have like a specific date, or is that kind of TBA at the moment?
So it's kind of TBA at the moment. The Android build is already live for players to check it out. But for iOS, we are still waiting on approval. There are a few other issues we had, so we are kind of fixing those and getting everything streamlined. But yeah, overall, everything is looking good, and we should be live with mobile very soon, as well as the PC builds are also coming very soon. So players would be able to play on consoles and any controllers that are supporting Windows or Linux, as the game would be available on Linux and Windows and Mac as well.
Wow, man. And look, I know we're slowly teasing it here. But yes, guys, a lot more updates around to come around that. And any significant impacts as far as the changes to the game when it comes to the mobile side of things, or are we essentially looking at the same mechanics as it would, be playing on the browser version?
So it will be mostly the same. The only difference would be that players won't be able to like purchase using crypto on the mobile apps. Instead, they will be using either the Apple App Store purchase model or Google Play credits and so on. Basically, how you usually use for the Web 2 style of games. And for now, the game will be kind of, in terms of the purchases, they will be available in two methods. So, on mobile, it will be all Web2 friendly, purchases, while on PC, currently it's just crypto, but in future, once, the token is live, players would be able to directly purchase using credit cards, debit cards, UPI, everything within the browser itself. So that's the major difference. There will be certain minor differences in terms of the user interface and the user experience, but overall it will be kind of very, very similar.
Makes sense. And just to expand a little bit more when it comes to this, and I see we're streaming here, the game, but when you look at, and maybe this kind of reels into a couple of questions I have with this. I think we talked about it very briefly in our last stream, but targeting audiences outside of crypto, I feel, again, with the approach and feel that Spellborne has to its gameplay, I feel like mobile tends to make a little bit more sense considering how casual and, I guess, calm. I don't know if calm is the right word, but I get this little laid back feel from playing Spellborne. Do you kind of see this as an advantage to when it comes to a mobile launch version of Spellborne? Curious to know your thoughts on that, Ghosty.
Yeah, definitely. See, for Spellborn being a casual, it's not entirely a casual game. It's more of a mid-core game. A mid-core game is something that you're playing for fun, but you still have to pay a little bit of attention to it. And this little bit of attention is usually in the battle system where you have to decide which moves to make, because otherwise, you would end up losing. So overall, it is a good move for the game itself, as a lot of players in the past have demanded mobile access. A lot of players have demanded that they be able to play the game on their mobile phones, or even have a better experience, or at least on the browser, because the game, specifically for iOS, it did not run very well. And that's primarily because, of the limits that Safari has for browser-based games. So we're kind of, fixing those issues with the mobile apps, as these mobile apps will run better. Of course, there are still limits, but they will run better compared to what the browser version did, and overall provide a better user experience. And of course, this is also a lot more accessible for a lot of players, because, as I mentioned in the past, like our primary audiences are either in Brazil or Philippines, and these users usually do not have a PC, so they play the games on mobile, or they go to internet cafes and play the games there. So being able to play the game on the mobile, on their mobiles at any moment, it's a game changer, first of all. Secondly, they get access to the game at any moment, and they don't have to travel for the game. So it kind of adds a lot of viability for these players, as they usually have to choose between multiple games, in terms of earning potential, in terms of gameplay potential, and so on. So it will kind of ease up a lot of things for these kind of players.
Yeah, I definitely can see that as like an opportunity for those gamers that maybe not have the best resources, but making the most of what they have. It's powerful, and again, I think this is kind of tailing into the targeting the audiences aside of Web3. First of all, how do you kind of see a different slight approach to your marketing per se? I don't know what exactly plans you have for the Web2 side of things, but will we see more of an approach with the IP, or are you going to continuously lean into spotlighting the gameplay and its mechanics around that end? Or will we see both? Ghosty, go ahead.
We have tested out with IP, and we will continue doing so. But the primary focus from now on will be solely on gameplay, because we can attract. The game is currently in a state where it can attract Poke MMO players, Poke Rogue players. Of course, the amount of content, amount of development time that the game has seen is not enough compared to those games. But overall, the differences that we see, and the accessibility points, as well as the amount of potential that this game has compared to those titles, I think we should be able to attract a lot of web 2 players, and that's going to be our target, like attracting those users via Reddit, attracting those users via YouTube, and working with creators who have been primarily covering these two titles, Poke MMO and Poke Rogue to be specific, as well as any similar Poke ROMs, and anything that is primarily focused on fan made Pokemon games, because these users are hungry for more more kind of content of that kind, and they are looking into fan made games, they're looking into games that are very very similar, and these are the kind of users that have already led to the kind of the success of games such as Koromon, which saw like 10 million downloads on mobile. So overall, that's the audience that we are targeting, and primarily we will lean more into the gameplay side of aspect, as that works very well. For the IP side of things, we will slowly start leaning. It's like you play the game, get familiar with this character called Woodot, and after that we want you to see that reel on Instagram, not before. So it's going to be, you play the game, you see the reel, and then you're kind of locked into an ecosystem where now you're interacting with the IP or with the game even after you've closed the game. That's the user experience, that's the user flow that we want for the players.
And speaking of like these characters that you mentioned, like Wudot, will we when you speak of the IP, will we see an expansion on more characters? Like I feel like games almost have like this mascot. I don't know if Wudot is going to be the mascot of Spellborne, but are we going to see this kind of be expanded as you and roll out your marketing in Web 2?
I think Woodot will primarily stay our mascot, but it just depends upon which monster the audience likes the most. For example, if we are forcing Woodot and all of a sudden we see that some other monster from the game, for example Pandoro or any other monster like Toadle sees more attention, then of course we will shift our attention to that. But obviously we will be testing out with almost all of our designs, and we have a lot of designs to be specific. Like currently the game has over 130 monster designs, and we're constantly adding new monsters every week or so. Like every week we're either adding a mutation or we're adding a new monster. So it's on a regular basis that we have a lot of options, and we will be testing out all those options and seeing which of them works well, which of them doesn't.
You see, this is exactly why I like asking these type of questions, because I feel with a game like Spellborn with such a plethora of different types of monsters, I imagine gamers are gonna have their own version of what they consider like their own Woo Dot, you know. And speaking of, how will you kind of approach, I guess, more of the storytelling and lore side of Spellborn? I feel like the season one was such a great kickoff. It was a good amount of like teasers into the storyline, but can we get some alpha on what potentially the season two, season three storyline looks like, and maybe even beyond that?
Yep. So the storyline of the game will not follow any sort of seasons in future. To be specific, so like the season two is the last season that we'll have. After that, the game will just go into open play, and the game will get content updates on a regular basis, but it won't be based on any seasons. Players will be able to create their monsters, so the play to earn aspect will be already live. players will be able to, at any moment get into the game, capture a monster, and if they're lucky, or if they're skilled enough to breed it efficiently, then they will be able to sell those monsters for tokens. And so the play to earn aspect and all the play to airdrop aspects that we have tested till now, they will be already live. But in terms of content, it will be on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis. And in terms of what players should be expecting, so there is one quest that will be added, that has been added for new players, but for regular players it will be added this week or maybe next. And that kind of gives a hint about where the story will go. And I don't really want to ruin it for anyone else, but overall it's mostly about what kind of, as we multiple times we've mentioned what these guardians are. We just say that they're very strong creatures, but who are they, and why are they in this story world, and
Mm,
why haven't we seen any of them till now? So those kind of things will be slowly opening up. And over the next 5 to 6 months, the amount of content that we are planning, players should expect to see at least 3 or 4 of those guardians, as well as they should expect to see at least, let's say, 2 or 3 locations, and these are major locations. These
mm,
wouldn't be like smaller towns. So for example, they will be seeing Isogashi city or hidden village, and these two locations are very very big. Like Isogashi city is like 4 or 5x of what Eurokopi is. So they will be seeing bigger maps, bigger cities, bigger routes, and the game will slowly expand into a whole world. Right now, it feels very very limited, and primarily that the reasoning behind that is because our team has been just focusing on finishing up the feature set, so that we can use that feature set to kind of build and make the story more interesting. We could do it in a way where we could have just added the story first and then added these features, but then we would have to go back and edit those story elements to incorporate these new features that we are adding. So that's kind of what our thinking is: finish up the
right.
features and then just push out the storyline as fast as we can. And we have a lot of content planned for the game, and it's the thing that also attracts web 2 the most compared to the feature set. So I always say, like, web 3 is all about shorter events, features, while web 2 is all about long term events and content, like storyline and
Mm,
everything.
mm.
So right now, our focus till now has been primarily Web three, but in the future, since the game will be into open play, we will be adding Web three features side by side. But primary focus would be on adding more locations, more content, more monsters, more characters, as well as finishing up the main storyline at least.
I do like I call it like maybe the breadcrumb trail approach where you kind of leave these little hints for your audience or your players to kind of dive into themselves. Um, and speaking of, I'm again just going back to more of the marketing side of things. How do you kind of see the cadence of, I guess, like reaching, or yeah, how do I say this? Reaching a newer audience, right? Like doing what you can with marketing to make that work, but then also at the same time making sure that your web3, your core community that you've built here so far stays engaged, that their attention is, kept on the game. How do you kind of plan to balance this, action of outreach while trying to engage your current player system at the same time? Ghosty, to your thoughts there.
So it's going to be hard, and I wouldn't say this is something that we would be able to easily implement. But in terms of what our actionable items are related to both of these things. So for the Web two side, I've already mentioned we will be working with creators. We will be specifically targeting guilds and groups of players who have been primarily active in PokeMMO and PokeRogue for over the years, and giving them a chance to test out the game. But in terms of Web three, in terms of how we are trying to take care of our existing audience, the first thing is the Glory Store, where our holders will be taken care of. Where anyone who is holding apartments, they're kind of getting like free items from time to time, as they are able to purchase these items from the Glory Store by just holding their apartments and or their tokens. as token staking and apartment staking both will be available in the Glory Point system. And in terms of attracting more Web3 players, so our events won't end. Like we've conducted events with multiple projects till now, but those are not the end. And we are still working with multiple projects on designing different events. I can't really share any names, but we have been in conversations with multiple projects to push out newer events in the game. And the best part is that this way their projects get attention, but also our project gets attention, and we get a new user base to attract, as well as kind of build out a long term partnership with that project, because at the end of the day Web3 is all about working together. So that we have already showcased, and a lot of projects reach out to us from time to time. It's that we are very very selective with who we work with. So that's something that the player base should keep in mind, that there are going to there will be new content for Web2 users or Web3 users who love content, but there will be more events, there will be more tournaments filled with rewards, filled with tokens, NFTs, and all sorts of different kinds of items that they want in the games. And any sort of holders, either token or apartment, they will be able to access a lot of free items, a lot of free stuff by just holding their apartments and holding their tokens inside the game itself.
And this is where things I feel for, again, I'm always trying to look at things from like a web 2 gamer perspective. And and I myself, I'm trying like to remove this web 2 versus web 3 like type of audience. I think at this point there's definitely a blend. And if anything, we were once quote unquote web 2. We just found this crypto space and now we're calling it web 3 gaming. But aside from that point, Ghosty, when it comes to the token side of things, how do you plan to make this seem like it's an in-game currency for these non-native crypto players, and it's more of something that they look at as a reward versus something that you can speculate on? I think that's a very common crypto behavior when it comes to these tokens. But how do you kind of look at that approach here, Gosi?
Yeah, so the first thing is that when a Web2 user comes in, uh, they are looking at it as a MMO, more like an MMO rather than just a simple RPG. So they would be looking for options to trade. And most Web3 games, what they do is they tend to just push the user towards OpenSea or any external marketplace. So that's the first thing we are trying to fix, is that if you want to trade items, you can trade that within the game. And when you're trading those items, the currency that you're using, it's an in-game currency, it's called bond, and they don't really know it's a token. And anyone can spend those tokens. So when they want to buy certain items in the marketplace or from any other player, they can do P2P trading, they can do any sort of trading. And the token that they purchase, they can use by using credit cards, debit cards, and so on. So at the end of the day, it will feel like a in-game currency, simply because it is. It's not like it's a token masquerading as a in-game currency. It's a in-game currency masquerading as a token. So it's the total opposite. And in terms of the usability for Web2 users specifically, who we don't like, kind of, we don't really want to stop anyone from speculating on it, because at the end of the day, the more we stop, the more they'll think that we don't care about the token. Because at the end of the day, we do care about the token economy, as better token price will attract more players. But the thing is that in the game itself, it has so much utility that they'll forget about the price, they'll think about the utility itself. That's the kind of approach we are taking. And in terms of the utility itself as well, so the game economy right now is very very simple. It's a single token economy. And the players, they can't really trade items, they can't really see what the guilds will actually do, because right now guilds are just a group of players, and they're just checking into the wards of fortune event. But in future, once the guild system is fully live, the guild tokens would be live, and these guilds would be using those tokens to attract more Web3 players. And these Web3 players, they will come into the game and they will speculate on the token 100%. And we don't really want to stop that. What we want them to do is speculate on the guild tokens more, speculate on the, on the success of these guilds, as well as we want them to participate in the game economy, because the more they participate, the more kind of what do you call it, the more they find the differences between the prices in different kinds of items, they can make money there. And in the end, they're just providing liquidity, they're just providing kind of viability to the Web2 players who just want to buy and sell items in the game itself without thinking that it's a token. So it works well for both sides. It's just that the implementation needs to be picture perfect. And this need we need to make sure that we're not devaluing the token, or we're not valuing the token too much. It should be in a way that the token and the game both work hand in hand.
I really, really like your response to this, Ghosty. And, I'm glad that, I think one, most, I want to say most founders, but I would expect most founders to respond in a way where they understand the token isn't everything, but at the same time it is, right? Because, and maybe this kind of stems from my next question I have for you. You mentioned how you want the token to come off as a utility token, right? Because of there's so many ways to benefit from it, from both your gameplay mechanics to the token itself and the value. But where do you think you'll find the most, I guess, impact and increasing this value price of the token? Do you think this will come from, a natural, I guess, usage of the coin itself, meaning that these gamers don't even realize that they are using, a token per se for upgrading their monsters, whatever it may be? Or do you want this to become more of that crypto speculation side of things where people see the amount of value in the token, they're like, "Oh, hey, like if it's gonna be this, then I expect price to be Y," you know? What's your thought process when it comes to increasing the value of the Born token?
So the price and the value of the token, it purely comes from speculation. No matter what a game developer can or may do, no matter how many players a game has, the price of the token will be primarily dependent upon what the speculators think it is. Like if the game has a lot of players, they might speculate that it may increase in price, but the problem is that you want to make sure that uh, those users kind of act towards the price increase, like those users are actually using the token. So now you reach a situation where players are using the token, but the price is not increasing. Why is that? It's purely because the speculating side of things just finished. Like they see that the game has a lot of users, the game has a lot of growth, but they see that these users are just buying and spending in the game. They're not speculating, or they're not buying in bulk. They're just buying as much as they need. So the price only increases if the user buys more than what they need. And in terms of handling that, in terms of creating the price difference as well as handling the price purchases, um, the speculators will primarily carry on the price of the token, and the main feature that will actually convert towards this. So as I mentioned, the users that are in the game, they tend to kind of act towards the speculation side of things. But the difference is that for most games this doesn't happen. The users are not converting towards that price increase. Why is that? Because they're just using the token and they're just spending it. They're not holding it. They're not buying more than what they need. And to create that difference, to create that usage, is how our guild system works. So for example, if you join a guild, you want the guild token. To get the guild token, you need to stake the bond token. So all of a sudden a lot of the supply gets locked, and it's just held by the guilds. It's just held by multiple guilds. So at the end of the day, for us as developers, to bring in more speculators, to bring in more to increase the value of the token in the eyes of the speculators. We just need to bring in more guilds who lock in more tokens, who then create more guild tokens. Players use those guild tokens and speculate on the performance of those guilds, and that's how how complex the game's economy gets and how valuable the token becomes. So more players come in, more guilds come in, the more valuable the token becomes. And at the end of the day, that's the goal of the developers as well, and that's the goal of the community as well, because that's how we are making sure that the goals of the developers as well as the community aligned together, while making sure that no one is having to spend a lot of tokens, no one is having to spend a lot of money to actually create value. The value is there based on how much fun the players are having, how much time they're spending in the game, and how much they're interacting in the game. Because that's why I've always say that the guild system for this game has played a prominent role till now in terms of attracting new players, but it will also play a major role in terms of the price appreciation of the token, as well as bringing in more players into the game in the future.
And man, first of all, Ghost, love the responses to all the questions you're asking here, or at least answering for me. Um, and one more thing before I want to do a quick little reset here on today's stream. Again, going back to kind of what I was saying earlier to the previous question, when you focus on the token and the value, and you bring this into the guild side of things, how do you plan to manage when let's say the guilds expand to hundreds and maybe even thousands of guilds per se one day? um how do you remain and how do you sustain that token value when this type of scenario does happen? Or again, is this the result, right, of these guilds expanding? Is this the result of the token value going up? I'm curious on, like, again, just your framework, how you plan to maintain this token economy within Spellborn.
It's a circular loop. So more guilds come in, more token gets locked, more value increases, more guilds come in, more token gets locked, and so on. It's a circular loop. So the number of guilds coming into the game will be a result of the token price increase, but the token price increase is also a result of the number of guilds coming into the game. That's how the economy works. And once these guilds come in, the major complexity or the major problem for us would be to handle the usability of those guilds tokens in the game, because now it won't be just a single token in the game that is tradable. It's multiple guilds, and they're all fighting for their token to have value, to have utility inside the game itself. So overall, our goal, our problem shifts from there. So that's how kind of we are working towards things. Like we're not worried about the token price. We're just focused on bringing in as many guilds as possible into the game, and those guilds will then result in the price increase, because not only will they be using the token, they will also be staking the token. So there's a lot of utility that obviously will turn into a price increase. And after that, our focus is just making sure that these guild tokens perform well inside the game economy, where players can kind of create smaller economies, where these guilds can hold different items, or they can sell services to different players. Like you could pay me to train your monsters, and I would then train your monsters and then give them back to you, like a renting system or something. So there are a lot of opportunities for players, and there are a lot of opportunities for these guilds and the guild tokens to perform well. It's just who takes that opportunity in hand and actually makes an actionable difference. So at the end of the day, the token price in appreciation and the number of guild increase, it will go hand in hand. More guilds coming in will result in token price increase, and we won't really have any control over that. Like as a team that believes in an open economy, We want to make sure that the token price reflects the game, and it reflects how many players are coming into the game. So our next goal is to just finish up all the features and then focus on bringing in more players into the game itself, and be it web 2 or web 3 both. So we will be conducting events, we will be conducting tournaments, we will be working with web 2 creators to bringing in those web 2 players from YouTube and Reddit. So that's our major goal, and those players will then result in these guild creations, these tokens being staked, as well as all the utility that I've talked about.
Ghosty, when it comes to the guild side of things, I want to expand on this a little bit, and maybe this ties into like the social side of gaming, right? Um, do you personally believe that the better the social aspect is of a game, that naturally marketing and onboarding players becomes a little bit more easier? Because I think it's a matter of UGC, and how I see a lot of these games kind of grow viral on social media apps is not even from the brand account themselves, but it's from these creators, these streamers, these gamers that create content for their channels or for their own personal brands. And naturally, this is how they attract an audience around, whatever game or Spellborne that they're playing. Curious to know if that's exactly how you think about the social side of things here.
Yeah, that's actually very true. So if you look at different games, for example, you can look at Poke MMO, Poke Rogue. They don't really have any official channels of content creation. They don't really market the game. You look at OTG, they are not creating the content themselves. They're empowering creators, and those creators then create content. So at the end of the day, it's all about how the creators are creating content and how that content goes viral, because a good creator can even make a boring game look very, very good. And then those games go viral, and now you're just sitting thinking, why did this boring game go so viral? What's so special about it? It's how the creators deal with these games. So overall, the social aspect is very, very important, and that's something we are trying to improve a lot. Like right now, a lot of users have complained about the chat system being very, very difficult to use. So that's something we are working on. As primarily it's important for the players to be able to communicate well as new players to learn from existing players, because now there's a huge skill difference. There are players who have played the game for months and months, and they have a lot of experience, but new players come in and they have to ask questions. So how do they reach each other? That's something that we are trying to fix, and that's something we are trying to solve. And once we are able to solve that, it will result in a much, much smoother experience for newer users, and the drop off rates will fall much, much lower. So overall, I do agree with all your points regarding how creators are working in different games, and how the kind of the communicative aspects of different games result in their success.
This is, man, I'm trying to figure where there's this one title right now that kind of blew up from exactly what we're describing. Oh man, I'm blanking out crazy, but it's one of those more comedic games where you have to like hide as like a, I don't know, this monster or someone in the room like finds you. I'll think of it as the stream goes on, but it's those type of moments where if I see something like that, or if a viral clip explodes like that, it piques my interest and it gets me curious about the game. I don't know so much about the actual conversion rate, if someone were, from going from watching a video to then now playing the game, which again, maybe we'll love to hear your thoughts on that process on, with this type of marketing, this social side of Spellborn as a spotlight. um do you also see this proliferation of UGC content kind of just again being the main marketing vehicle here compared to you having to do most of the marketing itself? How do you kind of see the differences here, Gosi?
Yeah, that's something that we are exactly targeting. For Spillborn itself, we haven't really spent anything on marketing yet. All the marketing has been with creators, and we haven't really paid any creators till today.
Hmm.
It's either been skin integrations, or it's just been via the creators program, where they are getting paid based on the referrals that they are creating, like the amount of um, uh, paid purchases they're referring to the game. So it's not any extra money that we're spending from our end. And overall, I would say that in terms of how these creators interact with different games, and how we are targeting our games marketing, it's going to be very very important for us to work with web2 creators, and both web3 and web2 creators. But overall, it's all about word of mouth. Like anytime you see viral content, the conversion rate may be very very low. Like a lot of games, they look pretty to watch, but they are not very fun to play.
Mm,
So creators could create a viral clip, or they could create viral videos about those games. But it just depends upon the game itself. Like the conversion rate depends from game to game, so it does not guarantee success. And for us, it's important that the conversion rate is as high as possible. Like we are not worried about going viral, we're worried about the conversion rate. If it's 1000 views, we want at least 100 or 500 players from it. That's the conversion rate we're looking at. We're not going towards 1 million views. If those 1 million views come in, then I would say we are looking at at least 500,000 users. So the conversion rate is what is important for games such as ours. But for a lot of games, in different genres, it's the virality that is important, because at the end of the day, it just depends upon the kind of audience you're targeting. For us, it's regular players that we want. For them, it might be just viewership, or virality among different content creators, what they might want. And it also depends upon the genre of the game, because for most MMORPGs, they want conversion rates, while for single player games, it can be just virality.
this is exactly how I want to see Spellborne kind of blow up on the Web 2 side of things. I love talking about marketing when it comes to this stuff. But look, I know we're also approaching, the last, I say 15-ish or so minutes on today's stream. And do you just want to get maybe a little bit more of some future, steps and next steps from here? But Ghosty, just where we are today with Spellborne. Um, Again, just reminding the audience, the people that are watching today's stream, what exactly are going to be looking at here, as we embark on quarter 2 of 2025. What's the objectives or milestones you have planned for this quarter?
So for this month specifically, it's all about opening up the game to our community, and this includes translation. So we're implementing AI translations, but we will allow community members to kind of add suggestions and improve upon those translations in case they go bad. So that's the first thing. That's the translation system will go live this month. The second thing is items marketplaces will go live this month before the token goes live. Players will be able to trade items. P2P does not require any sort of tokens, but in the marketplaces, you can list for tokens. For now, it will just use your off-chain tokens, but once the token actually goes live, it will just kind of sync the trades of on-chain token transfers with off-chain items. And you will be able to export your items to external marketplaces if you want. And obviously, that will be live with the uh, TG itself. The other things that are of importance for this month: translations, items, marketplace. What else am I missing? uh, Open APIs. So we will be opening up our API endpoints. They are currently in testing. So any sort of guilds, any sort of users that want to use the APIs to build out tools to improve their guild systems, they will be able to do so. The APIs will have smaller limits for non-Stellar Pass users, but for Stellar Pass users, they will get high limits. Uh, Guild leaders can apply for much higher limits if they need, and they will be able to view any sort of data that is allowed for them. Like players can hide their data, and they can make sure that only the data that they want is visible to others. What else? So open APIs, marketplaces, translation AI, monster mounts. So we have talked about the utility for apartment holders, which has been constantly talked about. It's the stellar pass, or sorry, the glory store and the glory system, as well as different kinds of utilities that are available for apartment holders. But for monster holders, any sort of starter monsters that we meant. So starter monsters are special collections that we will be minting. These are different from the monsters that you find in the game. In terms of stats, they are same, but some have much higher stats, like they have a higher chance of higher stats. But the difference is that you will be able to actually ride them in the game itself. So you will be able to ride a skeleton, and you will be able to move around on a skeleton in the game, like the final mutation of the skeleton. You will be able to fly around in with a Sobek and so on. So those kind of things we are currently testing. I think skeleton's mutation is currently being tested, and if it goes well, then we can expect those to go live either this month or next month. I also see a comment regarding profile borders and loading screens. So profile borders will go live with achievements, which are currently being tested in the final stages. So if achievements go live this month, then profile borders will also go live. And for loading screens, those will go live after our major update for the overworld. A major update for the overworld is coming to reduce loading times, because a lot of players have complained about loading times on the Android app, and we're trying to improve upon that, and just under kind of change the underlinking of different maps on the game. And this will reduce the loading times, but the loading screens will then go live with that. So there are a lot of different features that have been pending for a few months. So we're trying to finish those up while we wait for the token launch. And we're also preponing a few things such as marketplaces for items, so that players can trade items within the game itself. So yeah, that's I think that's mostly it in terms of our targets for this month. For this quarter, I will say it's guild tokens. It's all the things that I've mentioned. Basically, a feature complete game. Without the content itself will start going live after the token launch, and after that, we will be kind of pushing out like at least maybe one or two quests every week or so, as well as one new location almost every a month or maybe 2 months, depending upon the size of the location. So yeah, these are the mostly the things that we've been working on, or in the background. There are a few other things that we're testing, but I wouldn't like to kind of share them until they're 99% ready, because those are the kind of features that can be even cancelled as well. Another question from Hitoshi: will the mounts be faster than the skateboard, or are you nerfing the skateboard speed to make the mounts more desirable? They will be almost the same speed. So skateboards are 1.3x or 1.4x. The mounts will be 1.5x. That's it. We are not nerfing any sort of skateboard speeds or anything. Mounts will be a bit faster, but it's also more about the visibility aspect. Like when you're standing in a crowd on the map, standing like sitting on a cat is a different experience, or sitting on a dragon is a different experience compared to rest of the players standing on the map. So yeah, no, I think these are the things that are we're working on in the short term.
Oh man, this is, and I feel like you just described this month's goals, and I'm over here talking about a quarter. Man, this is again really, really appreciate all the updates around here, Ghosty. And I guess as far as the role of the community, right? How do you plan to just leverage the community that you've built so far in reaching these milestones? Any significant, I guess, opportunities that the community, the players here can look forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the APIs that I've mentioned, we will be with the token launch itself, we will be opening up a developer grant program for our community members to build out tools around the games, or as I mentioned, games. Not just Spellborne, but also Guardians of Celestia, which is our purely on-chain game. targeting regions, while Spellborne will target Web2 users. These APIs are mostly for guilds, as we want guilds to be able to use this data to build out better systems. And some guilds already have their ranking systems and everything, but it's all based on player submitted data. We want them to be able to build out fully fledged data that is directly connected to the in-game information, and we want them to be able to do it quickly without relying on any external parties. So these APIs are primarily very, very important for these guilds, but also any users or any developers who want to build out tools around the game. We will also be inviting a few developers to work on the front end of the game, in terms of improving the user experience or pulling out PRs, if they want to help improve the game from time to time. There are a few developers already doing that, but we will be kind of more lenient towards adding in more developers to that list. Uh, so overall, the APIs will allow community members to participate in the game and in a more interactive, or in a more kind of manner where it's more weighted, and any sort of community members who want to contribute to the game in terms of art, in terms of development, they can do so. They can reach out to our team, and they can just ask for access, and depending upon the uh, kind of level of access they're requesting, it can be given. Of course, it's just going to be limited to the front end. The back end will not be accessible to any community members, as it contains a lot of game secrets. But overall, we are going to be opening up the game to community developers in terms of helping out with translations, helping out with in-game assets, improving the user interfaces of the game, improving the user experience of the players, and overall creating tools around the game where you could just create a tracker app that helps you track all the eggs that the player has created in the game, and any sort of similar data to that. So like players can just give access to the app, and based on that they can kind of have a fun experience, either an egg tracker or any sort of specific app that helps them breed better monsters, or capture better monsters, or learn more about the game. Those kind of tools, as those will attract a lot of players. As if you look at the Spillborn wiki, within the first month it had like 80,000 views or something. So overall, these kind of tools do attract a lot of players, and a lot of eyes, and a lot of regular users. So anyone who wants to build such tools, they can, as these APIs will go live very, very soon. Any sort of community members who want to contribute towards translations, they can also reach out. We will be opening up the sheets or the Excel sheets as soon as we are done with the internal checks. So those kind of things players can contribute towards. Of
Woo.
course, any community members who are designing monsters, they can continue designing new monsters. We did add one new monster to the wild. That was a community design recently. So any sort of artists who want to design skins, monsters, they can do so, and we will work with them. Maybe a rev share opportunity for any sort of artists there.
Man, you guys, this is my favorite part of these streams is when we get all the alpha from Ghosty here. Ghosty, there is a question. How much time is left in season two? What are we looking at here?
So the end date of season two is not finalized, and I say this because season two is the last season. After that, this game will go into open play. So any sort of features that are left before open trading, open marketplaces, those will first go live, and once those are live, then season two will kind of end. And we are kind of looking at a date around a month after TG. So it will end probably towards the end of Q3, or maybe before, like mid of, sorry, Q2, or mid of Q2, or end of Q2, kind of like mid to end of Q2. And in terms of what other features that season two is left with, it's obviously the marketplaces, it's obviously the apartment staking stuff. So all the economy related features, they will tend to go live before season 2 ends. As once season 2 ends, there will not be any more seasons. The game will solely focus on short-term events where players will be getting, tokens based on their skill set in the PvP leagues, or based on different events that we conduct with our partner projects.
Oh man, I realized I was muted on here. Look, again, this is why I want to save these future questions I have on the next steps on another stream today. But man, first of all, Ghosty, as always, appreciate the past hour with you. Is there anything last minute that we didn't get to cover, but you did want to mention to the audience? Please go ahead.
Any sort of players who haven't tested out the mobile apps, as a lot of players haven't. I would say about 40% of our players are currently on the mobile app. Any sort of players who haven't tested out the games on mobile, please do. The links are open to public, and please share feedback, please share any sort of bugs that you find so we can fix those before they officially go live on the app stores. Currently they're available via testing links, so that there's that. And any sort of developers or artists who are interested in working on the game via either a community project that they want to build, or they want to add any sort of art to the game, please reach out. You can just open a ticket, and we'll take it from there. So the game is going to be much more open and much more community built, as now we're focusing more towards the content. And there is one more thing that we're currently discussing internally, but this will probably be a full-fledged feature. It's the community design quests. So till now, the quest lines have been designed by our team, and they are primarily focused on pushing the story forward. Community designed quests will be short, like limited quests where one or two actions are available. And these quests will not push the storyline anywhere. These will be just random NPCs that you encounter on the map on a random basis, or based on certain, like requirements. So, any players who want to design such quests, please feel free to design them and ping us or tag us on Twitter, ping us on Discord, and we will take a look. And we are working towards adding at least 10 to 15 of those community quests on day one. And after that, we will, once the map expansions happen, then we will be increasing this limit to at least 50 to 60. So a lot of content is coming. If you want to participate and create more content in the game, you can do so. And of course, be a part of this community uh, project that has been in development for almost 3 years now. So
Wow.
yeah, overall, that's what Spellborne is all about. It's about a community built economy, community run economy, community built game, and an open economy, and all the features that we've been building, all the things that we've been building, they're all based on community feedback. So always, our Discord is open, our updates website is open for any sort of feedback that players might have for the game.
Whew. Man, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, please shoot, Spellborn, the account here, a follow. Shoot Ghosty here a follow. But man, Ghosty, as always, appreciate the time spent on these streams. Guys, if you haven't already, we will be hosting plenty more just like these ones in the coming weeks. So more updates, more conversations with Ghosty coming soon. But guys, we'll wrap up things up right here, right now. It's been a fantastic past hour once again. We will see you guys on the next stream. Have a beautiful one, guys. Cheers and peace out.